What is up? Merry Christmas, everyone. We're a few minutes late, but hopefully it will be well worth it. I am donning the hat by popular demand. People say I look like Santa, so here you go. And I am joined by Troy Onaker. How are you, Troy?
I'm good. You know, it's getting close to the holidays here. Well, I think it's the third day of Hanukkah if you celebrate that. And, you know, we have Christmas this weekend. So, yeah, we're getting there, you know?
Yeah, whatever holidays you celebrate, happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah. Sincerely, no joke in there. So obviously, though, you know, Cardinals fans, we're getting a lump of coal for Christmas this year because we're getting to watch the game. And it's like, do you really want to watch the games at this point this season?
Not if Trace McSorley is starting. I mean, even Colt's kind of been brutal too. Which is unfortunate because we all love Colt McCoy. But this game, I don't think I'm really going to watch just because I'll be with family and we'll be doing stuff. And I'd rather not subject myself to watching that, unfortunately.
I'm going to watch it. But at this point, with the way the season has gone, it feels like work. You know, I mean, I feel like I need to for, you know, what I do with the content. And it's not I'm not looking forward to watching the game. And it's going to be bad football, you know? But here we are. So let me say, hey, let's say hey to some of the folks who are in the chat. We've got Nick Elf. Hey, thanks for being here. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We got Otis Driftwood. I'm here, baby. Thanks for being here. Yeah, the Bucks are going to destroy us on Christmas. I don't doubt that for a second. We got Eric Walsh. Thanks for being here, everyone. We got JTS URL. JT's URL. Hey, Joe, long-time lurker, first-time chatter. Hey, we appreciate you hanging out with us, lurking and chatting with us. So thanks for being here. And there's some other folks lurking. So, you know, we'll as we go through the, we'll say hey to some of the other folks who pop in. So, you know, this season is no fun at all. So what we thought we would do is try to do something a little bit fun. We're having our TCR Live Christmas wish list for the Cardinals. And what Troy and I have done is we've put together some gifts that we would wish for Cardinals players and coaches and such. And we're going to share them with you. And what I'd like you in the chat to do is tell us, like, as we go through this, like, think of Cardinals players, and what gift you would like for them to get. And you'll get it when we get into some of ours. You'll get where we're going with here. The more creative, the better. I'm going to tell you right now. I know, like, the you know, Call of Duty season pass for Kyler Murray. Okay, har. All right, we get it. A good GM, you know, I know that's what we want, but let's, and you know, JP wants a top 3 pick. They're working hard on it, right? So you'll see as we get into this. So as we get into these, you know, if you've got some ideas, put them in the chat. The more creative, the better. So we're going to get started. And I'm going to get us started. Oh, wait, let's get it back to slide 1. All right. So I think, yes, I'm going to get us started. So the first gift that I want is for a retirement party for Rodney Hudson. He's been basically retired, more or less. And so I think, listen, he's had a great NFL career, maybe not so great with the Cardinals, but I want for Rodney Hudson to have a retirement party. What do you think about that, Troy?
I mean, it's long overdue because, yeah, this year he's just been collecting that paycheck. What game did he even go out? Like, I'm struggling to remember if he even played for us at all.
I don't even remember. I know he's played at this point. I think he's played right around half of his games as a Cardinal.
He's just been collecting that paycheck, which, you know, whatever. Dude's gonna do what he's gonna, you know, do what you're gonna do. I'll just be more aggravated if he actually doesn't retire and somehow ends up on another team, and like if we cut him for whatever reason and he like actually plays good throughout the season,
goes to a team that he wanted to be at. Yeah,
exactly. That'll just really be the icing on the cake for that. But yeah, it's really sucks. I was so excited when we traded for him because I was like, this is it. You know, it was a good emotional kind of rebound from the Lindsay deal falling through. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's well overdue for one.
For sure. We've got a few other folks who've dropped in. Andrew, thanks for being here. Get well soon. Get together for Rondell Moore. Good. I've got something for Rondell Moore in a bit, but yeah, that's a good one. Dakota Bedard, thanks for being here. I want for Christmas, we want powerhouse level KC and Bills caliber. So we want to be that kind of team. JP is saying, I will give him a new fishing rod so he can go from here on out. Okay. Awesome. So Troy, you have one for our buddy Buda Baker. So
I do.
What is on your list for Buda Baker?
Some Tony Robbins tapes. For those who don't know, he's a very motivational speaker, self empowerment. I get that for Buda, not because he needs it, but I feel like there's gonna be some trying times for him coming ahead. Because as we saw in the Hard Knocks, he really hates losing. And unfortunately for him, I think there's going to be a lot more of that in the immediate future. Not because of him. We all love Buda and we all think he's terrific, but it's going to be an interesting next season. And I don't know how many wins are going to be within that season. So he might be in for some trying times. So Tony Robbins is going to be his guy.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I almost feel like, that speech he gave was so impassioned. It's like, almost feels like he needs like an internship with Tony Robbins because he's got the passion to be a motivational speaker, right? So, so I like it, for sure.
Or maybe Matt Foley, Matt Foley, motivational speaker. For anyone that remembers that one,
I'm good enough, or no, down by the river in a van. Yeah, okay, internet, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Otis saying, man, I couldn't and haven't seen the Hard Knocks series. It's been up and down. I'm gonna watch anything. Some of it's been boring, to be honest, but some of it's been good. But good or bad, I'll watch it. So
yeah, there's some good stories in there. Like the JJ Watt stuff last week was pretty good. It's just my favorite parts I look for is when they do like the little human elements around. That's kind of the more fun stuff.
Want to say hey to my buddy Brennan Storr, who's joining. This is actually a YouTube channel / podcast that I actually do with Brennan Storr. We're together. We do horror movie stuff for fun. I aspire to live in a van down by the river. I don't doubt that, Brennan. But yeah, yes, very nicely done, Brent. But appreciate you dropping in, Brent. Thank you for hanging out with us, man. I appreciate you dropping by. Okay, so someone mentioned Rondell Moore, and I love Rondell Moore as a player, as a talent. The talent is absolutely there. The problem has been the health, right? So what I want for Rondell Moore is a bionic leg, right? So that hamstring issue is no longer an issue, right? Give him that bionic leg. Let him be that superhuman that he has this talent to be, and everybody wins. I think that can happen, don't you, Troy?
Yeah, but knowing that, he's going to hurt his other leg. So then
he needs two of them.
He's going to need two, and then he'll hurt his elbow or something. The guy's made of glass. Unfortunately, he's like if you've seen the Bruce Willis movie, is it Unbreakable?
Yep.
What's it called?
Yeah,
he's the glass
Samuel
man.
L. Jackson.
Yeah, he's a glass man. He cannot stay healthy, but
for sure.
Elite talent. Once if he stays upright, he's one of the more frustrating players I feel like we have on our team.
100%, absolutely. So speaking of movies, you have for one of our players to actually become a movie star, and I think that's impressive. So tell us about that.
Mr. Robbie Anderson has a leading role in The Wolf of Wall Street too, because he's just stealing that paycheck at the moment. he's how many snaps has he had? It's like under double digits, I think. He's
actually got a lot of snaps recently. It's the targets he's not getting.
He's just, he's just again stealing that paycheck. And it's not his fault. Like the joke, obviously in Wolf of Wall Street, they're purposely stealing money. It's not his fault. He's just, went where he went, but he's just, again, too many players that like we've traded for that aren't doing literally anything at this point. Yeah,
it's unfortunate. He's a good player. He's not an elite receiver, but like he's a starting NFL receiver throughout his career. The guy's got 1,000-yard season, but he hasn't done it here. Like, at the right price, I don't mind bringing him back for depth, but it hasn't worked thus far. So,
well, I think again we've seen his skills as speed. Like he's fast and long, so he's like the deep balls usually where he gets them. But again, we've seen this year defenses have kind of taken away the deep ball, so it's made it really tough for him, and especially Kyler's deep balls also just completely left him for whatever reason this year. So
Yeah,
was not,
that's
yeah.
yeah, that's and we've talked about this some on here before. It's the lack of deep passes that has been the major issue.
Mhm.
Let me say hey to some of the other folks that have come in here. Austin Hoy, yeah, Mr. Glass, right? 100%. We've got Jason Crow. What's up, Joe? Thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate you dropping by as always, Jason. Otis, my question to you all is, do you think Keim was the guy that did the deed in Mexico and it wasn't the O-line coach? I mean, I have strong opinion on that, and I'll let you though go ahead and start that.
No, I mean, I don't know. This is all, none of us were there. None of us know for sure, but I would find it very hard to believe that
Mm-hmm.
that this mistaken identity was happened. I think it was pretty shoddy and frankly irresponsible journalism by that one guy to even
Mm-hmm.
suggest that. So no, I don't think. I mean, again, the closest thing was just two white guys that were bald, that had goatees. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't think it would ever get to that point where they thought it was the same guy. So, yeah, Kim's dealing with his own issues now
Mm-hmm.
that are unrelated to this, I assume. But
I completely agree with you, and you know what you're mentioning, and people have referenced there, and I forget who the reporter was. And to be honest, with as bad as that work was, I don't really even want to give him credit
yeah,
for anything. Tweeted out this thing that's like basically, Kugler's put out a statement where he claims that it was either miscommunication or mistaken identity, that he didn't do what he was accused of, the groping of as the reports come out, NFL security worker. This is him trying to clear his name, whether he really did it or not. This happens. This is how people
mm-hmm.
respond to this stuff. But a reporter took that and put out a tweet or an article, whatever, about Kugler's challenge to that, or his statement, and put it with a picture of Kugler next to Keim. And there is some resemblance, bald dudes with goatees, but like it's implied that, oh, well, maybe it was Keim who really did it. And like Kugler did not claim it was Keim, right? That
Yeah.
was not his claim. He just said, I mistaken identity, whether that's accurate or not. No one has accused Keim of having been the guy. This was someone throwing something out there to speculate, and it's like I don't know, like slander or libel. I guess libel would be the term. It's with digital spaces, it's hard to hear because it's visual but not
Yeah.
word. But anyway, like that's irresponsible. It's like, listen, Keim has enough issues, like you said, but it is irresponsible to like throw something out there like that makes people think Keim did something that we have no, up to this point, suggestion they did. So I agree. It's really bad reporting. Someone else did something. This was on a smaller scale. Someone did a tweet or a thing on Instagram or something like, and it's the same kind of thing. Like, someone put a picture. There was a picture of Steve Keim at a restaurant, and it looked like he was being led to his table by a hostess,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It looked like some high school kid who was working at a restaurant taking us to his table, which like we all do, right? We go to a restaurant, some high school kid takes us to a table. You can see he's following this probably, I don't know, teenage girl who's doing her job, and some person's like, Keim was seen in public with an underage girl. I'm like, what? No, he was at a restaurant. But that's like you can't. If you're an aspiring reporter, content creator, whatever, have more ethics. Like, this is part, like, I know I'm going on a tangent, but this democratization of space, someone like me can get on here and do YouTube, which is good in some ways, but it also, people who do reporting for a living usually understand the ethics of this stuff. And so if you want to do content or anything, at least learn a little bit about those kinds of ethics and don't throw irresponsible things on there. Okay, soapbox set aside. Anyway.
It's funny that happened to continue your tangent for a second. Is that lady for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who was just like roasting Gio Bernard because they were like interrogating him why he botched a fake punt, like whatever. Like, if you watch that game, Gio Bernard was not the reason why Tampa Bay lost. Like, it was Tom Brady throwing 2 interceptions and, just a complete meltdown of their offense.
Yeah.
And so she was trying to like make him feel bad, and everyone who came on Twitter is like, no, you seem to be in the clear wrong here. And she just took it like some people in the media like get like power trips, and so she took it.
Yeah.
Was like, what is going on here? Like,
It's just never good. I don't know. I think one of the best qualities we all should try to work for is having some humility.
I don't
Um,
know.
not thinking ourselves bigger than we are, but
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Otis, yeah, you're welcome. Sorry, you got us on a tangent, right? Soapbox. And Decimus, yeah, the team said there's video and witnesses about Kugler. And listen, we haven't seen the evidence, but so I'm content letting that process play out the way it's going to play out. But the kind of the suggestions that people have made that it was, Keim. I mean, listen, there's a possibility that maybe, we just don't know the details. Who knows what actually happened? But absent of any actual evidence that it was, someone like Keim, you don't make that assertion, right? Unless there's something. So, okay. So, yeah. So speaking of social media, what I want is there's a player on the Cardinals who is going to be starting probably this next week, much to our dismay, who is actually a little bit of a social media sensation. If you're not familiar, there is a certain music video, right? And I think this person needs a new meme or new song. Trace McSorley needs a new song that maybe better represents his current situation, because he's no longer this star quarterback at Penn State. He's like a borderline bubble quarterback who's having to start because the two other quarterbacks ahead of him are injured. So I think Trace McSorley needs a new song. What do you think?
He looks like Zach Wilson in this photo, like at first glance. Well, that's what I thought it was.
With the frosted.
Exactly. Yeah, I haven't heard the song yet. I've seen it on Twitter, people posting about it, but yeah, good old Trace. He's gonna have not a very fun Sunday, unless if Colt McCoy plays. But I'm assuming it's gonna be Trace, and it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be a rough day at the office for Trace and James Conner, because I'm sure James Conner is gonna run the ball like 40 times. So.
I feel bad for James. Like, I think people aren't giving enough credit for what he's dealing with. Like, he's been injured, but he's running reasonably well behind a really bad offensive line. It's hard to get anything with what this offensive line has been giving him to work with.
Yeah, my only thing with James Conner, and it's not his fault, but like in space, he's still like he doesn't have burst, we're not using him. We're trying to use him for everything, and it's just like no. He's good at the close yardage stuff. We still need a Chase Edmonds, and kind of was that guy. But I mean, say what you will about the Cardinals, but I mean, Eno's now been cut from every team that's ever had him. So clearly, it's more of an Eno issue than an organizational issue. So
yeah, Connor's best role is part of a committee, a two-headed, where he's the bruiser. And he can do a little bit in the passing game too, but then you have that guy who's good in space, right?
But now with like Keontae, it's kind of confusing, because I feel like Keontae and Connor kind of occupy the same function at this point, because Keontae's he's like bruiser, but a little more speed to him than Connor. But I don't know. It's
I think I think he's maybe a little shiftier. But Connor's got more power behind him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they need another back who's different than both of them. I definitely agree with that. Let's see real quick. Wolflangus, don't let this strike you from the fact that Cliff hasn't won a coach's challenge since like 3 years. I think there was one he won, but he also doesn't take a lot of them for what it's worth. He doesn't really challenge a lot of plays, but I remember I heard them ask him about that in press conference. So yeah. Okay. So speaking of Cliff, there's something you want for him. He's in Hard Knocks. I don't know if you saw, he apparently goes into like 3 o'clock at 3:15 in the morning. He's leaving. So he's, he's up early, and I don't know, man, I just don't think he's getting enough sleep. So, what do you have something in mind for that?
He needs to like melatonin and take like a nap, power naps. Cause my guy is looking tired all the time. And yeah, again, if you see the Hard Knocks episode, you see his schedule, it's no reason why, because I think he gets up at 3:30. He's in the working out by 4 to get his day started. But and he's probably like the last one out. But that's going to be like, dude, I get you work hard, but the results aren't coming, so you might need to shift it up a little bit here. It ain't working, my guy.
Cliff needs a big boy nap.
He does.
Right.
He needs some, because that, like, he needs to, like, I don't know if you heard, but like, those 15-minute power naps is what he needs to do. Just lay down, get 15 minutes, he's good to go.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. So for sure, someone who I don't think needs a nap, but is our guy Zaven Collins. He's had a good year. I think we're all kind of happy with what we've seen from him. And Zaven, he's from Oklahoma, and I used to live in Texas, and I've been to Oklahoma. It's a different sort of a place from Arizona in some ways, but he's a cowboy, right? He likes his cowboy hats and cowboy boots. Right. I think he probably owns a lot of camo and things like that. Right. So, I want for him a new pair of boots, and I would suggest a pair of ram skin boots, right? A nice pair of ram skin boots for Zaven Collins for Christmas. What think you?
I agree, but why stop there? Let's get some Seahawk feathers on it. I would say
like a Seahawk feather in his cap, like his cowboy hat with some Okay,
exactly. Yeah, I would
a gold
49ers skin, but that's way too.
Yeah, it's a little morbid. How about a gold belt buckle by a prospector?
Exactly, something like that.
Yeah,
because the NFC West is no longer the best division in football, so it's all back down to the muck and the grime for us.
It's been bad. So I don't know if you can see, like that ram has X'd out eyes. So so I had a little touch.
That's like Dolphins colors too on it. It looks like
it's got a little bit of that turquoise in there. That wasn't intentional, but yeah. So yeah, okay. So let's go back to Cliff though. Speaking of style, because Cliff, in Hard Knocks, we saw he's got a certain style, right? And you commented on one of our live streams how much you loved his artwork, right?
This is when I knew I no longer wanted him as our head coach, which I kind of feel bad now, but just because like the dude's clearly going through it at the moment. I mean, the whole team is, but you could just see the weight on his shoulders. So I gotta feel bad, but like it's he needs an upgrade on that artwork, and he needs to look up to somebody he aspires, someone who can show him the ropes.
So maybe someone like
exactly our Lord and Savior, Sean Payton. I'm actually kind of coming off the Sean Payton bandwagon a little bit because I don't think it's happening, but but yeah, he needs some upgrades at the old artwork. But like I don't also feel that bad for him, because if he does get fired, he's going to make like $40 million if you believe the who's the Panthers head coach that was fired? Matt Rule. So like Matt Rule, they paid him out $40 million. So Cliff's going to be in that ballpark. So I don't feel that bad for him.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He's wealthy, dating an Instagram model or whatever.
She's a very pretty lady. If he'll be Hard Knocks. Yeah.
I think she was there at the thing they did in the community, right? So for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, we've got a super chat. Thank you, Raphael.
Reading my mind. Reading
all I want for Christmas is Jalen Cardinal. That's the defensive interior guy is he from Georgia?
Georgia, yep.
Yeah. I would like him.
I might get in this later, but I had to I want to say come to Jesus moment. It's a little intense, but like now that we might honestly be like a top 4, potentially top 3 draft pick, like I'm kind of going in on the Jalen Carter, Will Anderson train. I'm like, let's just go for one of those two. Cause I feel like, I mean, again, all draft talk now is kind of completely irrelevant in like 3 months when it actually starts going down. But it seems like there's like a drop off of those, like from those like top 4 or 5 guys. And then it's kind of, whatever.
I have started doing some mock drafts, on PFF's mock draft simulator. Jalen Carter, like I love him early. If he's there, like he's one of those players I'd consider taking. I'm still very much tempted to trade back for one of those teams that wants to go up for a quarterback and add, some additional picks like on day 2. But if the Cardinals are picking in the top 5 and they're taking their player, that would be the player I would most want to see them take. Will Anderson, is pretty, is a great edge rusher. And I'm becoming more open to that if it's an elite edge rusher, but I just, yeah, I mean, just, I don't know. I don't like taking an edge rusher early in the first round and paying that person a ton of money. I know you got to pay people, but I just much more like the idea of drafting them on day 2 and 3 and developing them. And if you're going to, but I don't mind paying an interior pass rusher. Those guys are harder to come by.
Yep.
They impact the game in different ways. So that's why, like, for me, like, give me Jalen Carter on the inside, give me next to, Zach Allen. And then if JJ Watt's coming back, give me some really good interior pass rush. And then the guys like Myjai Sanders and Cam Thomas, they're not going to get as much attention and they're going to be able to perform well. And so like pay those interior guys and keep and do the pipeline. So listen, if they drafted Will Anderson, he's going to be a stud, so I wouldn't hate it as a player. I'd much rather get that interior. So yeah, I mean, Jalen Carter, yeah. But I will say my first choice is still kind of trade back. I mean, what if you think about if you could trade back a few spots, get Keely Ringo, and then get, an additional pick like early in the second round or something?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
My thing, I guess, my concern would just be like this year it was almost the opposite what we had last year, where our edge pressure is good, but we had no interior pressure. Where this year we had good interior. I mean, I think JJ Watt and Zach Allen were the highest ranked duo, and JJ Watt has some of the most pressures. Was it the most? I know he had posted some stat that he had. He's like he's in the top 5 at least in pressures this year. And like we saw how bad our defense like kind of was. Like when we have no edge pressure or anything, if no one's getting home, and like I like Myjai, I like Cam, I'm losing. I like Marcus Golden, but like he's been brutal this year. He's hasn't really gave any pressure, and I think we saw what happens when you don't have like a guy that can get home. And I think Will Anderson could be that guy. But I get what you're saying, and I agree, but. It's also the thing is like, man, if we miss again though, then like if we don't address it like we did this year, it's like it's brutal.
Yeah, I like Marcus Golden's one of my favorite Cardinals of all time. I have his jersey. I love Marcus Golden, what he's meant to this team. I've been very sad to see him, have a difficult year in terms of the sack production. And I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that we need to move on from him because I really appreciate him as a player so much. But like, I don't know. In a perfect world, maybe he hangs it up and and then he has a job in the front office and kind of works his way up. I hope he has a role in the organization after he retires. He's just, whatever makes sense. So, but
the play that made me realize that Golden was probably done is the Vikings game when he was trying to run. He was trying to run down Kirk Cousins and was just running in slow-mo, and Kirk Cousins was outrunning him. I was like, oh, that's not what you want to see.
yeah, for sure. Real quick, let me say hey to a couple of folks who dropped in here and get to a couple of comments. But Raphael, thank you for the super chat. And listen, I'll take Jalen Carter for Christmas for the Cardinals for sure. Let's see. Decimus agrees, though, in terms of the clog up the middle. That's the problem for us. I've always been a fan of interior pass rush, though, over outside. I mean, if you can get in that quarterback's face, and then if you have really good interior pass rush, like I said, you can't double team those outside guys, and you might have to double team inside a little bit. It helps out. But I haven't watched him much, but Anderson sure seems small NFL player for me, especially thinking if guys he goes against are in the division. Excuse me. I haven't looked at much tape. I think he's up there for a reason, though, and those Georgia players are usually pretty legit. I think he'll be good. But I do like bigger edge rushers in general. But yeah, I'm probably nitpicking Anderson just because he's the top guy in the draft, and that's what happens, right? We start picking apart those top guys because when you're picking that high. You do, right? You're like, there's a lot invested. You're like, well, we can take him or we can trade back and get a couple players. You want to make sure you feel good about that guy, right?
And there's like there's been some kind of examples of top edge guys kind of not super translating well. Like, I mean, Aiden Hutchinson hasn't been crazy good for Detroit. I don't believe. the Washington, what's his Chase, he's right.
Chase Young.
Chase Young, he's kind of been he's been injured, but
Yeah.
hasn't. And then I think again the Jags, Trayvon Walker's kind of been hit or miss. We're the only consistently good edge guy has been Kayvon Thibodeau, who was like 10th, right? He was further in the draft. So
Yeah, there were some questions about his personality, and I don't even want to say character because it wasn't like off the field problems. Just some people didn't like his personality.
Yeah, they thought he was like kind of too, like, I don't know, like football like was just the means, like not like he didn't love football. I don't know. I agree, and that turned out all to be BS because he's the best one out of all of them so far. So.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see. I want to say there are a couple other. So, and if you like I said, put in the chat what you want for Christmas for the Cardinals. Otis is saying Anderson's like Micah Parsons, so that's an interesting like this, and you take him if that's who is. And Austin saying Marcus Golden has 41 pressures, which is pretty okay. And like I think the deal with Marcus is like the guy is tenacious, so when he gets in there and gets his hands on offensive linemen with the speed to power and mostly power, he gets through there. And I think the fact that he has a lot of pressures but not a lot of sacks is probably indicative of what you're talking about, where he's still got the hand move, the strength, and what he in terms of the abilities with this to use his hands and the tenacity. But when he can get through there. But when it comes to he gets through there and he has to use that burst to get to the quarterback and bring him down, maybe that's where it's failing him.
There's not someone to clean up. Like you can probably, force him move the pocket, but there's no one there to clean up. When the quarterback has to get off his spot, there's no Chandler Jones there to clean up, kind of thing. But
yeah.
And
then Otis wants a tackling guru to come, please, to the Cardinals. So yeah, for sure. Yeah. So if in the chat, if anyone's got something that you want for the Cardinals for Christmas, but there was a question someone had for us. Back here, Wolf asks, should we hire new GM from outside the organization or promote within? I've been thinking about this one lately. I've kind of got in my, the video I did, I kind of went with, well, let's promote Adrian Wilson. I didn't necessarily have a strong feeling about it. GMs are like, talking about, it's a little hard to know who the up and coming GM candidates are out there. But what do you think about this? Where are you at with this? Hire a GM from outside the organization or promote from within?
So actually, I was doing some. I'm gonna give you guys a peek into how the sausage is made. Joe gave me this topic, and I completely misread it, and I thought it was what I wanted the Cardinals for Christmas. So I did this research today.
Yes.
And I actually stumbled upon it was a Chargers thread in one of their forums, because apparently they're already planning on cleaning house too. Apparently, I don't know, but there was a Chargers thread and it had all these names, and I was like, oh, these are guys and a lady who all seem interesting, and that I think we should look into. But in terms of the philosophy of inside or outside, like you were saying, it's so tough to know who's decision maker is actually like the one doing it or just part of the whole team, as it were. I'm more leaning towards outside, and it's not anything to do with Adrian Wilson or the other guy that who's
co-GM.
Yes, nothing to do with those guys. They're all very, not only the quality and very capable candidates. They've already been pursued from outside ventures. Adrian Wilson was supposed to go to Jacksonville, and I think Quentin Harris had something lined up too at some point. It's just like, I think we just need new eyes. I think, they've already been, you can look at it two ways. If they're inside, they're probably already in on Kyler Murray as the quarterback, which I think is something that the new GM is going to probably have to come to terms with, because again, Kyler's with us for at least the next 3 years, feasibly, without having to completely tank and destroy a throwaway year. So those are two are there, but I just think they're too ingrained in this culture, and this culture has already been such a problem in a head case, and it's not their fault, but I think it's time for some new eyes. And the Cardinals have historically always been so insular, and I think that's bad. And one of the comments I've referred to every time is that the outside NFL thinks the Cardinals front office overvalues their own talent. And I think if you look at some people outside, they would be a little bit more frank. Which, to be fair, I'm sure you can say that about a lot of teams, that everyone else is going to overvaluate their own talent, obviously,
Yeah.
you know? But clearly something needs to happen, and I think we need some fresh blood in the building.
Like, like I said, I love Adrian Wilson, and I think he's going to at some point be a GM, and I think and hope he'll do well. But I've kind of started to shift towards the thinking that of bringing in someone from the outside, because some people have been talking about this recently, and someone talked about how, and maybe you might even mention this too, like the Cardinals, their GMs have all been inside hires, promotion from within since since I guess it was Buddy Ryan, the GM, one he was coach. But they promoted was it Rod Graves and Steve Keim, and the tough part about that is if someone is steeped within the culture of the organization, that's what they know. And I'm not even going to go to the place of saying, no, the culture is bad or toxic. I don't think the culture is as bad as people are saying it is within the organization. I don't know. I'm not in there. It's not like, I don't know. It's not like what we're hearing about with the Suns, organization in terms of,
hey, new owners today, baby.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Good news. Right. But I do think it's how, like, in terms of like how people are treated, I haven't heard anything, maybe more, that there's this major issue with culture in that way, but processes, right? Process is steeped in how the Cardinals have already done things. And as much as I think Michael Bidwell is doing a better job than his father, part of that, he's got a stadium to work with. That's a whole other conversation. It's like each generation is learning from the last, right? Of how things have been done. And there's just part of me that feels like you need to bring someone in who was steeped in a different organization. Like, I always talk about how much I respect the way the Ravens run things, and Pittsburgh, the Steelers, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are some really well run organizations. Maybe you bring in someone from there who can come in and say, I know y'all do this way here. There's a better way,
Mm-hmm.
So I lean towards the outside, right? So yeah, like, JP wants an outsider. So I'm starting to move in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll see what, I think we can all reasonably believe that Steve Keim will not be back next year. I know it's not official, but I mean, let's just read between the lines a little bit. It's because it's, spoiler alert, his health thing isn't like he has cancer or anything like that. There's clearly something else going on. Just saying. Just read into what Vance Joseph and Cliff's comments were. None of them mentioned anything about health. So it's like,
I mean, I think we both probably have the same suspicions and have heard whispers. Don't want to really kind of throw that out there.
Exactly. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, it's not like a Pagano situation where, like, when he's better, he's going to come back and take over. Like, I don't think that's the path of this for him. If when he comes better or anything, which we all wish him the best and no ill willings there, but
it feels like this is going to be a way for him to move on without Michael having to fire his friend.
That's 1,000%. Yeah.
So, and listen, for as much of as he's done a job that we don't like, I don't wish ill to him, and I don't like. I think, and this is maybe another soapbox. As fans, we sometimes need to try to be better sometimes, because just people saying really bad things about him personally. It's like, he's a human, so
yeah,
like,
he has a family, he has all that,
family.
Like,
so it's like, I hope for the best for him and his family. He needs to move on, but Desmond's saying, but maybe Q and AW see the problems and want to change him. How many times have we worked for someone who wanted to change it? Listen, I hope you're right. And I like, if they hired one of them as the GM, I'm not gonna be like, bad move. I lean towards bringing in someone who can bring something from the outside, who's seen how things are done elsewhere. And it's not always even about the problems as much as you're having better processes, not having seen a different process, right? It's not necessarily always, hey, there's these huge things we're doing that are terrible, or we're just not doing things right. It's just, maybe there's this better process. But listen, maybe they can. So you may be right on this. I don't have a strong feeling on this. Right?
Yeah, like I wouldn't hate it if either one of them got the job. And of course, it's like, well, let's see what they got. Obviously, and it's not like just because they were in here, they can't be good. Like I believe Jason Light,
Yeah,
the Super Bowl winning GM, was from the
he
Cardinals
was
organization. So it's
absolutely.
not like it. It's impossible. So
Yeah, it's not as cut and dry and simple as people think. It's just a straight up black and white. Kime sucks. Everyone in the organization must be. No, it's and even the line between someone who's a good GM and a bad GM sometimes isn't that far. It's just but like it's just not that simple that everyone who worked under Kime can't ever be good. Jason Light went off like you said, and yes, they've had a bad year this year, but like Tampa Bay has a good roster. They have built a good roster,
And it's like GMs are is the hardest position by far to like hold on to. Like there's a reason why there's a very low like tenureship like with their GMs. Like it's just so difficult, and it's just the way it is. So but yeah, so I think outside, and there's some names I kind of sent Joe's way that I think a lot of people are kind of talking about, and I don't know. We'll see. I mean, again, this is all pipe dream. We don't know who or what and all that jazz. But yeah, so outside, and I think just anyone to get, again, one of those people from those stable organizations. Like the names I kind of focused on were the Eagles, because I mean, that roster of the Eagles is the best in the NFL, in my opinion. We'll see how we'll see how it goes without Jalen Hurts, to see how that shoulder injury is, because that could really be that would really suck. Which, to your point, for the Shane Steichen thing, which you said, I love him. He does exactly what Jalen Hurts does. I'm like, yeah, but Jalen Hurts is already hurt, and Kyler Murray's gonna die if we have to do that. But I think there's some guys in the Eagles. I think one of the names, actually, they're not even. So this is hilarious, Joe. I thought they were both part of the Eagles. They've already moved on from the Eagles at this point, but. It's like Brandon Brown, I believe. He's a younger dude. He was a VP director of personnel for the Eagles. Now he's the AGM, assistant GM, at the Giants. And then this lady's name I already forgotten out of my head, but I remember hearing it a couple times, and she's fascinating. She's actually like French Canadian. What's her name? Oh, hold on, I'm looking it up here. Catherine Reich. She's French Canadian, so it might Rouge. I'm not sure, but she's fascinating. She's like my age. She's like 32. She's been all around the XFL. She's bounced around. Again, she's with the Eagles, and now she's the AGM at the Browns. And at the Eagles, they said she's probably gonna be the first female GM ever, just because she's just terrific. So those two people I think are interesting, just because, again, the Eagles have been the best assembled roster, in my opinion, and continually. And what's even more impressive is like they went from the Super Bowl, had like 1 or 2 down years, and are already back up like in the top. It's like I don't know. I think it's really impressive.
Yeah, no, they've built a really good roster, so I wouldn't hate any of that for sure. Let me say hey to a few more people and we got a few more Christmas. Calvin, a channel member, longtime supporter of the channel. K1 needs 2 weeks, all expenses paid. Wait for it. Media training. Listen, I've been a Kyler defender. I think he's a little aloof, but I don't think that's a personality flaw. It's just who he is. I think he's a little misunderstood, and people are reading into things that aren't fair. But everyone has room to get better, and I think a little PR media training wouldn't be a bad thing for him, so that maybe, learning how to more effectively manage, that his public image. I like I said, I don't think he's a bad kid. I think he's kind of being criticized unfairly, but people are going to, if this is why athletes give the textbook responses we don't like, that we find boring, because they know that if you're real, sometimes you get, people then criticize you. So a little media training, sure. I don't hate that.
Yeah, you can tell he's just like not very comfortable in front of speaking in front of a lot of people a little bit, but I feel like even He's gotten so much better since like his
Mm,
rookie year. Like he used to be brutal in front of the mic, where it was just kind of rough to listen to. Now it's
mhm.
it's better. Wouldn't say he's a poet up there, but
Yeah, yeah.
then not everyone can be JJ Watt on the mic. Let's just say that. So
This, JJ Watt like literally has found the
Mhm.
balance. Like he doesn't give boring answers, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But he gives answers that like, and he's got good quick wit. Not everyone can be like that though, right?
hmm You know who's hilarious and might be the best on the mic, and we've never seen it, but Tweezy on that
Mm.
clip. Did you see that clip he was
I
doing
did
where
with
he
the
was
tiny microphone, right? The
yeah,
mic,
he was
MJ or
his yeah, MJ or LeBron. He was hysterical. I thought he was so funny. I think he's the best so far.
there was a thing they did earlier in the season where like who's the funniest person on the team, and multiple people said Tweezy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't see a
He
lot of it. Yeah,
no, he was hilarious. I loved it.
yeah, for sure. Austin saying trade back and draft Skoronsky for Christmas. He can play guard for the first year and then slide to tackle year 2. He also gets a few picks, shore up the roster. Yeah, like a lot of people think he's going to be pretty early pick, maybe the first offensive lineup and off the board, maybe not. We'll see. But if you could trade back a few spots and still get him, I wouldn't hate that. But to me, he's got to play guard because I know a lot of people are saying tackle early, and I mean, you got Josh Jones and DJ Humphries. I know Humphries is injured. I know we don't know if Josh Jones can play right tackle, but you only have so many draft picks, and you don't want to take a pick that's like wasting a player who you have on the roster who can probably play. And if tackle doesn't, get a backup plan, a guy who can start, or can jump in if you need to. And if they don't work out, then we take tackle early next year. But there's so many places where there's a need. I'd rather be focusing on interior defensive line, interior offensive line, get a cornerback, than go after tackle. So Skronsky, I don't mind him, but to me, he's got to play guard and he's played left tackle in college, but a lot of people think he can play guard. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on Skronsky?
I mean, again, I don't know too much about the draft, just other than positional, but I liked your plan more of just the center. I think like in the second round. I think that Ohio State center is
Whippler,
projecting
yeah.
kind of around there or whatever. Again, a center is going to be a big issue for us, and this is total pie in the sky. Maybe because I watched one preseason game and he looked fantastic, but Marquise Hayes or that he's on
Hmm.
the team. I think he's going to be really good at guard. So
Yeah.
maybe not really good, but I think he'll be a decent guard. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't go crazy
When I
on that
when
front.
I've done some mock drafts, and when I take him early, I just don't like the way my draft looks, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. Because like, it's just, yeah, there's other positions I want to address early, and and as who someone just put it in the tweet, and I want to say hey to everyone who's jumped in here. Someone said, yeah, trade back for real for King's ransom. I mean, with the quarterbacks in this draft and where the Cardinals might be picking, you might get a nice haul. So like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we're not talking trading back. You don't have to trade back far. I mean, there's teams like 7, 8, and 9 who might be looking quarterback. Like
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, I think is like pick 8 or 9 ish. Like trade back there, get some really good draft capital, let them get their quarterback, and still maybe get the best cornerback on the draft or something like that. The real quick, let me say to some of the folks that popped in though, David Pan, thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're doing well. Hope that you are doing well. We've got GW Wild, send K1 the Kingsbury bingo card, right? And just let him repeat those answers. I mean, listen, it'd be the right kinds of answers, right? And then and Arjun saying trade back is the move unless we get Carter or Anderson. Yeah, like to me, if we're in the top 5, Carter for me is the only player I want to. I'm like I really would be like, okay, yeah, take him. And again, and I'm not saying again, we talked about this earlier. Anderson's a great player. He's worthy of a top 5 pick. Just for the how I like to build a roster, Carter's the only one I'm really gonna
Mm-hmm.
not be. I'm gonna be excited about that early. But yeah, I don't know. What I mean,
He's a
and
beast, man. I watched his highlights the first time the other day. I was like, oh my god, this guy is a monster.
And then Ian, thanks for being here saying, yeah, how can we hire D'Amico Ryans and draft Jan? Can you, I mean, I like that combination.
I was so like not out of it, but like I wasn't sure just because again, the reason I was kind of more on the Sean Payton train was like again, he's a proven winner. He could like restart this culture in the organization and get it going. And I was worried if we hired a younger coordinator guy, he might just get again Cliff 2.0 swallowed up in the maw and just spat out. But I don't know. What D'Amico Ryan's done with that 49ers defense is just so incredible because I think the 49ers defense, like, yes, they have Bosa and Fred Warner, but like every year they just turn these guys out. And their secondary is not very good, but yet they're so good. So I don't know. And he's awesome. And yeah, I'm all in on Jalen Carter.
I would not be upset with that.
My thing too, I don't know who the offensive coordinator would be because I feel like the whole Sam Fran coaching tree has just been picked to the bone.
Clean,
like
yeah.
Who else is, I was looking around today and there's a name. I'm curious if you saw it or what do you think? Well, there's two names I'd think about. I mean, again, these are probably not realistic, but Frank Reich kind of came up and I don't know if he would ever, I don't know if that would be good in terms of like an office culture of a guy who just got fired from a head coach behind a brand new young guy, like there might be kind of weird tension, but
like, well, Vance Joseph was kind of a little bit like that.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. But like, because I feel like Frank Reich kind of got the raw end of the deal and the Colts, like they were good for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And then the Carson Wentz situation happened. And, this year he didn't really have much of a shot, but I don't know. And then Todd Monken, who was the OC with the Buccaneers with Dirk Cutter when they were like putting up yards with Jameis Winston. Then he was the OC under Freddie Kitchens at the Browns, got axed, and now he was the OC at Georgia, and he's been there. So I kind of liked him because he had the Dayball profile of NFL, college, elite college programs back at the NFL. Like he has experience. He's older. He's seen all sorts of levels of football and knows it, and like was very successful with that Dirk Cutter Buccaneers team. And obviously very successful at Georgia at the moment. So he's an interesting one.
I like Sean McVay. I'm sorry, Sean Payton. If we could get him without giving up a first round pick or second round pick, ideally, sure. I'm not, for me, the biggest concern has been what you're giving up for him. And people say, well, why wouldn't you give that up if you have you get this great coach, he's worth more than a first round pick. But it's not that he can't make that kind of difference. It's that I just think if you fix the GM situation, we're hopefully going to fix that. And you have a good roster. I guess I just believe most any offensive coordinator who's been successful over a couple years has shown some ability with a good roster can win if they have an NFL type offense. Again, my concern with Cliff is I don't think his offense is sustainable in the NFL for the reasons we've talked about. But even at that, like you bring in, a GM who's going to build the roster in a more conventional way. You as much as I've been, I think it's time to move on from Cliff. I'm not going to be like in an uproar, angry if they give Cliff another chance with a better GM roster. Like, okay, I think Cliff's a better coach than people think he is. Again, for me, it's a few questionable calls. We talked about this before, though. Like, good coaches have questionable moments. Everyone talked about Andy Reid's clock management forever, right? And again, it's just I do worry about the offense sustainable, but he can win with a good roster. I just would rather try to get one of these guys who's more of a conventional NFL coach. But even at that, like, so if you move on from Cliff and you bring in one of these offensive coordinators who's been good, even if they aren't the top guy, or, you bring in D'Amico Ryans and bring in an offensive coordinator who's a legitimate NFL coach with a good roster, I think you can do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to be too devastated if Cliff comes back because I agree. I think he's been kind of given slightly the short end stick this year. I don't know. I mean, again, there's that Jordan Schultz piece is kind of hilarious because it totally blames Keim, but like absolves Cliff from all of it. I'm like, okay, well, Steve Keim's not doing some of these play calls where we're all just
Yeah.
scratching our head going, what is going on? But like, I would understand keeping Cliff just from like look, man, like no one else better is coming through the door situation. Like, because that's a reality that could be happening. I know we've all seen the Carson Palmer quote saying this is not a desirable job, which I, I I'm kind of on that. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some uncertainty attached to it, absolutely. But I mean, I don't think we're much worse off than Carolina or some of these other, like the Texans. Like, even though the Texans have looked decently the past couple of weeks, but so I don't know. I mean, I think also too, like if you're getting rid of a GM, like and everyone, and you already have to hire 2 new coaches to replace the ones that are gone anyway. It's like at this point, let's just start over. That's kind of my thing. Like,
I'm starting to feel like with Keim probably moving on, I'm just leaning towards thinking we're going to see Cliff again. Whether I know fans don't like that, but I think what's probably most likely to happen is one of the internal guys is going to be promoted to GM, and then they're going to try to fix this thing with Cliff. You know, whether I agree with that or not is a whole other thing, but I think that's what's more likely to happen. I think Michael's not going to move on from both of them. Again, I could be wrong, right?
Yeah. I would say, I think most realistically, the next GM is going to be either Adrian Wilson or Quentin Harris.
Yeah.
I think just, I don't know. I don't think Michael Bidwell's ready for the, because if he gets an outsider person, they're going to want to start all over. And I don't think he's ready for that. Or maybe he is. Who knows? He might surprise us.
GW Wild saying, so how many first round picks have been wasted by the Cards? Then losing a first round for a Super Bowl ringer coach is no brainer. I mean, I hear where you're coming from. I just don't agree. I'm just like the whole kind of, well, we don't draft well anyway, so let's just not value the picks. That's a non-starter for me as logic. For me, and again, it's okay. I don't expect everyone to agree with me. Like, I've always said, like, you have to get out of a shooting slump by shooting. You have to get out of a hitting slump by swinging. You have to get out of a drafting slump by taking picks and, maybe changing who's making the decisions, which looks like hopefully we're going to. You don't say, well, we can't hit on him anyway, so we stop. No, you have to, like, if you don't build your roster through the draft, that's when you start. Like, the reason we have such an old roster in part is because of those missed picks and having to build the roster with aging free agents. And because it is a salary cap league, as much as people like to say that the cap is a myth, it's not a myth. It's just flexible. If you have to build your roster with a lot of free agents in a salary cap situation, then you have to go after budget, and you go after budget either by going guys with injury histories or older or not as good. So they've tried to, so like, it's because we haven't drafted well that they've had to bring in the AJ Greens, and I love JJ Watt, right? He's been great for them, but guys like that, because older players, because they haven't drafted as well, and you don't fix that by not drafting. So again, respectfully, I love you, GWL, but for me now, if you can, like we started before, later picks, a third round pick, I'll do it.
And I think because like this is like trading all these draft picks for proven assets is kind of a newer thing. The Rams kind of really taking it to the next level. We're about to see what the other side of that looks like. Like the Rams, they won the Super Bowl. Good for them. They could be not a very good team for the next 3 years because look at that roster. There's so many holes, and their main foundational pieces are on the way out pretty much. Jalen Ramsey's washed. Aaron Donald's on his way out, and then Matthew Stafford's like one more head injury from like being in some serious trouble probably with his health. So like we're gonna see that. And like conversely, what if the 49ers don't win this year? What if they don't win next year? Like, what is that going to look like for them? Now we're just talking about how good they have been drafting, and doing what they do, but there's like a point, it's like a tipping point where like, because they have like no draft picks for the next, like they traded their whole pretty much lot next year for this year. So, you know,
Yeah.
you gotta roll with what you got.
This is interesting. The CB is saying you've got a roster filled with aging vets. It's going to take someone to do a major overhaul 180 to reconstruct this roster. Sure, they got their hands full. I wouldn't count on DeAndre Hopkins trade. So like we talked about the roster before. I don't think the roster is as far off as people think because there are some players. Again, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, which we'll talk about in a second. But like on defense, Byron Murphy, Zach Allen, Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson. You've got some young players you can build around and aging vets. So you need to do something about replacing those aging vets and you need to fix the offensive line. But the question of DeAndre Hopkins, I've always balked at the idea of trading him, part because that cap number is big as well, that even in a trade. I'm not pushing for trading him, but I'm becoming a little more open to the idea you're going to take a little bit of a dead cap hit doing it, but but you've got to. I just worry that we might not get as much as people. Everyone thinks we're gonna get like a first round pick for him or whatever, and with his contract, I don't know that you will. If you can get a day 1 or 2 pick, maybe if you're really going into the rebuild, although I'm not pushing for that, just because of his age and give him a chance to go somewhere and win, and maybe we're in a rebuild that takes a little longer. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Again, I'm ambivalent about that. I'm torn. What are your thoughts on Hopkins trade?
I agree. Only if the team's going to give us all the Midases gold, like because we've seen how elite he is, and again, the dead cap hit is gonna, doesn't make sense for us unless if we're getting some nice draft assets back. Because I mean, we all love D-Hop, but
yeah,
the thing is, and I think Vince Marotta kind of tweeted earlier, what if he demands for a trade? Which, that's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? Anyone Arjun saying wouldn't do it for day 2, and I don't see anyone giving us a day 1, so maybe we're. And that's probably kind of how I feel too. I mean, as a player, he's elite still. And receivers can play well late. It's never been about speed for him. So I think he can still be good.
His game's going to age better than most for sure.
Yes, for sure. I just don't know that we're going to get as much as people think in return for him. Just what team wants to take on that contract for a 30-year-old receiver? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. 1,000%.
Well, we've gone over an hour. And, if y'all missed the beginning, I hope you go back and watch it. We had some fun kind of Christmas wish list for the Arizona Cardinals. And I hope that wherever you are, you're having a good week leading up to Christmas, and that you all have a great, safe week. There's going to be the Christmas Day game, and I am tentatively planning to do like a little bit of a live stream post game on that. I haven't been doing the post game live streams because this season has taken my will to do anything, but yeah, definitely want to thank everyone for hanging out with us. Troy, why don't you any Christmas wishes or holiday wishes or anything else you want to say or promote or mention before we get out of here?
No, just hoping it's safe this year or this week and maybe next year, and let's all hope Jalen Carter falls right in our lap.
That would be nice.
And hopefully K1's ACL is magically restored.
Right, for sure.
Take the bionic leg from Rondale and give it to Carter. That's more useful there.
That's a good point. Maybe I should have just gone with that, right? So yeah, happy holidays, everyone. Whatever holidays you celebrate, I wish that for you in abundance and joy. Wish for everyone to have a great week. Be safe. We appreciate here at TCR Land and you all hanging out with us. So we're going to get out of here. I'm going to throw up the shout outs to the channel members. Thank you for everyone who supports the channel. And we will see you all next time. Peace.